Shalom everyone and welcome back to the Pilgrim channel. My name is Michelle Denicio, and in today's study we will continue to learn more about Yeshua's fulfillment of the prophecy according to Meir's perspective of the events. Meir wrote his account about Yeshua's ministry in a very concise and direct manner for an Israelite audience who knew the prophecies and the promises found in the Torah and the writings of the prophets. The title of today's study is Parables to be Purified and Grow in the Kingdom, based on Mark chapters 4 and 5. We will focus on Yeshua's service through the miracles and healings that speak of a purification that is more than physical. We will also review Yeshua's teachings through many parables that proclaim the good news of the kingdom that he established. With this short introduction, let us begin with chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. It says, "Again Yeshua began to teach by the lake. The crowd that gathered around him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it out on the lake, while all the people were along the shore at the water's edge. He taught them many things by parables. And in his teaching it said, 'Listen, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants, so that they did not bear grain. Still other seed fell on good soil. It came up, grew, and produced a crop, some multiplying 30, some 60, some 100 times. Then Yeshua said, 'Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear.'" The chapter begins with a clear illustration of Yeshua's popularity among Israel. Through his teachings and miracles, Yeshua had made himself known, even though many times when he healed, Yeshua would often say not to tell anyone. But the good news of the kingdom would spread throughout the nation and the surrounding regions. Many in the crowd were only going after the benefits. They saw Yeshua as a source to receive healing, liberation, and freedom, but they did not want a commitment to the Eternal One. All these prodigies and miracles of Yeshua had it as their main objective to bring the people back to the Father. But many did not want this. They only wanted to touch him because many believed that by doing this would bring them automatic healing. Yeshua had to remove himself from the crowd so he could teach them about the good news of the kingdom through parables. Here in this verse, we can learn the great difference between followers and disciples. A follower only remains as long as they received what they wanted, his miracle, his blessings. But when Yeshua exhorted them to live in obedience and holiness apart from transgression, hitting their ego, they were not willing to change. However, a true disciple, although the correction rebukes him because it makes him die to his flesh and his desires, does not move away or back down. They remain in the teachings of the Master because they are willing to change, to turn away from every evil path in order to live according to the will of the Father. This is why only the Talmidim, meaning disciples, were only allowed to know the mysteries of the kingdom, while the others he spoke in parables. From verses 2 to 20, Yeshua begins teaching the multitude about the parable of the sower. A parable is commonly an illustrative narrative in which the author describes a common event in life to illustrate a spiritual truth. A classic definition is that it is an earthly account that illustrates a heavenly truth. Yeshua used parables for a purpose that transcended the personal, the earthly to the celestial lessons that result in what we hope for, what we believe. And that's why in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 to 10, the Eternal spoke through the prophet, saying that Israel would be hearing and seeing the prophecy being fulfilled, but would not understand. This barrier was created because of the people's unbelief and their stubborn hearts set in following their own understanding. By doing this, they refused to receive the blessings of the kingdom of the Eternal that was being established through Yeshua. Instead, they would receive judgment. The religious leadership were totally opposed to Yeshua, and they influenced many others to do the same. However, the disciples were very blessed because they could see and hear, because they had a humble and moldable heart to receive the kingdom. In Hebrew, the word for parable is mashla, which has a variety of meanings. Oracle, obscure, saying, enigma, a proverb, metaphor, and allegory. These teachings require the reader or listener to go deeper to understand their meaning because they contain lessons that can only be discerned by actively searching. In the parable of the sower, Yeshua talked in agricultural terms. Perhaps the people would understand the literal meaning a little more because in that time the majority of the population were involved with agriculture. The parable expressed that a farmer scattered seeds, and these seeds fell on different types of soil. Some fell by roads that were on top or near the soil, some on rocky grounds, others among the thorns, and also on good land. For one reason or another, some of these seeds did not grow and could not bear fruit, and which sooner or later died, but only in good soil were the seeds able to grow and give their fruit. Yeshua gave the explanation of this parable to the disciples because only they had the desire to know more. They were not satisfied. They inquired because they wanted to understand, while the rest of the multitude stay only with a literal aspect of his teachings and nothing more. The disciples' attitude is what we must have as disciples of Yeshua, not to conform or remain in ignorance, but to go to our teacher to learn and grow. Yeshua explained that there are 4 types of land, which represents 4 types of people in this world. The farmer represents Yeshua, who gave the seed that represents the word of Elohim. The first type is the land by the road, a very busy land where the birds snatch the seed. Why do they snatch it? Because that land is in the right place to receive that seed. This refers to a person who is far from the instruction of the Father. A person who does not believe nor understand the word in his Creator, and that is why the adversary takes the seed, meaning word, away from him, because there is nothing that soul can hold steadfast to. They have no emunah nor the belief in the celestial promises. The next type of land is the rocky ground, characterized by a shallow land where the seed dries up in the sun, and this refers to the person who received the word of Elohim, was joyful until the adversary robbed it by the afflictions, worry, and dismay which caused the word and faith in their life to dry up. The third kind is the seed that fell among thorns. These thorns steal nutrients from the plant and do not allow it to grow. This is what happens with the desire for riches and the materialism of the world. They suffocate the faith of the believer and distract him from the heavenly promise. And lastly, the good soil. That is capable of overcoming all adversities because the plant has a firm root. As believers, we must strive to be that good soil that remains in the eternal one and bears fruit. Yeshua taught this in another parable found in John chapter 15, verse 5, where he said, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If we as believers are not steadfast in Yeshua to get to the Father, then we cannot bear fruit. That's why it is vital that we do not take the scriptures with emotionalism and religiosity, etc. Because as a guide to all truth, to be grateful to the Eternal for this gift that He has given us, and through the study we can take advantage of our pilgrimage and persevere to reach the goal, the celestial dwells. And this is what Yeshua refers to when he mentions he who has ears to hear. Let him hear. Those who are willing to understand that word, and as it says in Romans chapter 10, verse 17, it says, consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Yeshua. We must live this in a correct life, not just hearing for the sake of hearing, but listening, paying attention, and putting it into action. In that way, receiving it and healing can come to our life that will help us advance in path towards that future salvation. From verses 21 to 25, once again, Yeshua uses another parable to explain another spiritual concept, and this time about the light that comes from receiving the word of Elohim that cannot be hidden. Yeshua uses the example of an oil lamp that was brought into the home to provide light. It wasn't hidden under the bed, but instead set on a lampstand where it could have most impact. In the same way, if a person has received the light of Mashiach that reconciles us back to the Heavenly Father, then no darkness can exist. Everything in our life is made known and nothing is left in the dark. Yeshua clearly expressed this in John chapter 8, verse 12. It says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. This teaches us clearly that we cannot serve two masters. Either we are children of the day who live in light that comes through the interpretation of Yeshua, or children of the prince of darkness. From verses 26 to 34, Yeshua taught two more parables that illustrate the growth of the seed, using two types of seeds, one mustard seed and one normal seed. Both, despite being small, once they are planted in good soil, they grow. On the other hand, the mustard seed reaches a great height and the birds nest in its branches, and the normal seed is ready for harvest. The meaning shows more than the growth of these two seeds. Its message alludes to the good news. The message, which is represented as the seeds that began as small as a mustard seed, starting with Yohanan the emissary, and just like those seeds grew to such a degree that it reached others, represented as the birds took it to live, thus being prepared for the harvest, second coming of Yeshua. And we can see this in Matthew chapter 13, verse 40 to 43. In these parables, Yeshua refers to the work that he had begun by bringing the kingdom closer, and which in all this time has produced an innumerable multitude of believers and servants of the Eternal. From verses 35 to 41, once Yeshua had finished his teachings through these simple yet profound parables of the celestial promise, his disciples and Yeshua prepared for the next place they would go to by crossing the shore of the Sea of the Galilee. On the way, it seems that unexpectedly and out of nowhere, a storm begins, which is noted by its characteristic winds, which made the boat unstable, almost to the point of almost sinking it into the sea and endangering their lives. Seeing that their lives were threatened, they decided to wake up Yeshua, who in such a situation was sleeping, but upon awakening, he rebukes them for not having faith, and immediately the storm and danger goes away with his words. This event in many ways confirmed to the disciples who Yeshua was. This testified that he was truly the Son of Elohim to do such things that a simple mortal cannot. In this event, there is a message. The winds represent the impure spirits that seek to destroy. The fact that Yeshua was found sleeping was not a concise or an oversight. It is in accordance with the message representing his absence, in which one is vulnerable to those evil spirits that seek to sink us in the waters of the sea, which represents the world and the nations, when Yeshua is not present. Only with Yeshua can we receive a spirit of shalom through the reconciliation that he provides between humanity and the Heavenly Father. Only under Yeshua's authority may we overcome and stand firm against these evil spirits that govern the nations. Continuing with chapter 5, this chapter starts with a very incredible recount of a man who was possessed with many unclean spirits that had him changed spiritually. This particular passage is very controversial because it presents some variations between each of the books of the Brit Hadasha. One of the differences lies the name given to the inhabitants of the region where Yeshua arrives. In Gardarenes, and previously in this region it was inhabited by Israel, and we can see this in Numbers chapter 32, where the two tribes Reuben and Gad remain on the other side of the Jordan after they helped their brothers cross the river and conquer the promised land. However, they had assimilated to the surrounding nations. The fact that there were animals like the pigs indicated their spiritual condition. It is clearly prohibited to have that animal in any Torah believing house under the Mosaic law in Leviticus 11. With this detail, we can note their level of assimilation and how far they fell. These cities were under the control and influence of the Roman Empire. Its inhabitants were mainly Gentiles, modern. There was cities that were prosperous. They had theaters, stadiums, temples for the Greek and Roman gods, where they offered these animals to their deities, witchcraft, and false miracles. That region was known for having the most unclean spirits. Hence the condition of the men that we read in these verses. It seems that demons look for a body to dwell in according to Yeshua's teachings in Matthew chapter 12, verse 43 to 45, where it says an unclean spirit, demon, that leaves a person but then returns to that same person, bringing with it 7 even more evil spirits, leaving the person in a worse state than before. Yeshua at the end frees the man from that unclean spirit that claimed to be called Legion, according to the most important Roman military unit, which in imperial times was composed of 6,000 infantry soldiers and 120 cavalry soldiers. With this event, Yeshua demonstrated his authority not only within the visible, but also over those rebellious spirits that were placed in darkness waiting for judgment day. And we can see this in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 and in Matthew chapter 25 verse 41. From verses 21 to 43, after Yeshua liberated that man from the unclean spirits, Yeshua proceeded to go from shore to shore. There, the next miracles and healings would take place, all to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah 61 verses 1. That says that Mashiach would be speaking the words of Elohim, giving freedom and purifying lives that allowed him to do so. The first miracle that was mentioned was the resurrection of the daughter of Harris. Some commentary suggests that he occupied a good place in the Sanhedrin or council, being nothing more than one of the main ones of the synagogue who were always plotting against Yeshua. And it is surprising that despite being one of them, he would seek Yeshua to heal his 12-year-old daughter. That gives a lot to think about. Since another example is Nicodemus, who, despite belonging to the religious elite, did not fully agree with them and sought out Yeshua. In Harris' brokenness and humility, he came before Yeshua and asked him to come and heal his daughter before it was too late. Yeshua was not able to come immediately, and the girl died. However, Yeshua reassured Harris that if he believed, he would see his daughter again. Yeshua spoke to the young girl, and she was brought back to life. With this action, once again, Yeshua was fulfilling the prophecy about him and demonstrated his authority over the impossibilities that we humans have as mortals. Yeshua showed mercy and compassion through his service, and this is only an example of his love and mercy for the souls that live in this world. At the same time this was happening, Yeshua was also encountered by a woman who suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. The woman with the flow of blood. The biblical text indicates that this woman had been 12 years in this condition. The number 12 is an important number because according to the laws of purity that we find in Leviticus, 5 days maximum were a normal period. But apart from that, 7 additional days were accounted for purification, which is a total add up to 12. Being the years that she was sick and in that same year purified. The faith of this woman is very notable, which led her to act in such a way that before the instruction, it was forbidden for a woman like her to walk among the people, spreading impurity to others. Not only directly, but not only indirectly, but directly she touched the edge of Yeshua's mantle. And so she was healed only by her faith, which comes from hearing and works. It is said that as soon as she heard about Yeshua, this led her to want to approach him because she first believed in him. It is interesting that in the daughter of Harris and the woman with the flow of blood, both were considered impure according to the Torah, since both dead and menstruation were considered physical impurities of the body that could contaminate the most holy place of the tent of meeting, which later became the temple where the divine presence dwelt, and thus provoke anger and even endanger their lives. That is why specific laws were given in their times to prevent such a disaster, and we can see this in Leviticus 15 and in Numbers 19. The message that we learn from these two situations, although different cases, together they speak of the work that Yeshua was doing, not only in those women, by healing them and cleansing them physically, but they representing Israel. It was the same thing that Yeshua was doing with Israel, purifying them from their impure condition. At that time, Israel had been divided into two kingdoms that were represented in each of the women. Southern kingdom, Ephraim, represented by the younger woman, who, even though she was in a way dead, there is mercy and comes back to life, resurrects, fulfilling the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 37 about the dry bones that would live again. And the northern kingdom, Judah, represented by the older woman, who in a way was impurity, and in the same way Yeshua removes that impurity. In conclusion, we continue to learn more about the good news of the kingdom through Yeshua's ministry of mercy and truth. We learned how Yeshua would teach people about the kingdom of heaven through parables, and only those that seek will find the mysteries that are only revealed through the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeshua provided healing and purification to those who humble themselves, recognize that they need a Mashiach in their lives, and believe that he was capable of doing the impossible. Let us all remember and reflect on what types of land we are, because this depends if we receive the word of Elohim that helps us stay firm in truth, and even though the adversary wants to make us fall, it won't work. That is why we may strive to serve the Creator in spirit and in truth. And this is all for today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Shalom.